Hello, welcome to MJR RPG, a podcast for tabletop role-playing game reviews, replays, and other nonsense. The following is an overview for my Call of Cthulhu scenario, A Chill in Abashiri. The first section is spoiler light for both players and keepers, while the second section is full-on spoilers for keepers only. In short, A Chill in Abashiri is an investigation-heavy scenario set in a frigid northern Japanese prison for players and keepers wanting a long single session or dual sessions of mystery and seclusion. As this is my own scenario, this is not a review, but an overview letting players get a feel for what might be in store for them and to give some extra ideas and guidance to keepers. Before deciding on A Chill in Abashiri, the keepers and players should know that they are getting into a scenario that is largely a free-form investigation in a limited location, though there is still plenty of fatal danger. Players should be ready to take the initiative, as once they arrive in the main location, the immediate events are largely up to them. Keepers, of course, can run the scenario however they like, but in general, the first half of the scenario progresses at the pace the investigators set. The scenario also makes use of its setting in ways players and keepers should be ready for. Imperialism, colonialism, and political repression heighten in 1920s Japan, and these themes exist in the scenario, though how directly the players will deal with them, of course, depends on the group. Historical accuracy is not the main goal. For example, the prison layout, beyond general shape, is mostly fictional, but keepers and players can of course adjust it either way to suit their needs. If you're looking for a mystery with paranoia, environment and social seclusion, and an icy cold setting, then that is what I hope you'll find in this scenario. Dress warm and watch your backs within the walls of Abashiri prison. You never know who's watching. The scenario also comes with 4 pre-generated investigators to choose from, handouts, a map of the prison, and PC and NPC art. Depending on how the investigators fare by the scenario's end, they could have very different avenues to continue their adventures in Japan if desired. As a little thank you for listening to this podcast, there is a discounted link to the scenario in the show notes. And if you enjoy it, or if you despise it, I'd very much love to read your review on DriveThruRPG. If you're a player, halt and flee, for there be spoilers ahead. Are you gone yet? Alright. The basic outline of the scenario is as such. The investigators arrive at Abashiri prison to look into the death of a guard, meeting the prison warden and the head guard, and are given a few avenues to begin their work. At the same time, a massive blizzard brews over the prison. Over the course of a day, the investigators meet other guards, staff, and prisoners, and begin piecing together that not everything is as it should be at the prison. Prisoners have died in large numbers, the prison doctor is drugged up to his eyeballs, and the dead guard is frozen solid despite supposedly dying in a fire. They eventually likely determine that a cabal of guards and prisoners are collaborating to kill off prisoners in some horrible way involving unnatural cold. But to what end? When they've put everything together and got a basic idea of what's happening, or otherwise by the end of the day, the head guard frames the party for the death of the warden. Finding themselves imprisoned, they can then learn more from their now fellow prisoners. But early into the next day, the order of the prison quickly unravels. The guards on patrol are halved or worse, the prisoners riled up and given keys to the cells, and the snow and wind outside so fierce and frigid one can barely last half an hour outside before toppling over. As a prison riot breaks out, the investigators can either escape or follow leads to the prison shrine where the cabal of prisoners and guards, led by the head guard and a cultist inmate, conduct a ritual to bring about a god of pure cold. How events play out through the scenario can vary wildly, as players have access to all locations and NPCs from the start. Keepers should be ready to adjust character reactions and events on the fly. That being said, while the scenario roughly clocks in at, 5 to 7 hours, the location is still constrained to the prison. And even if the players do something completely out of left field, as players are wont to do, the main events of the investigators' imprisonment and the prison riot can be moved around to fit most contingencies. If playing with tighter time constraints, such as a 4-hour convention slot, the scenario could be shortened by cutting out the investigators' imprisonment entirely. Instead, either once they've started to put together an idea of what's happening or the session is running close to the 3-hour mark, the cultists could kidnap the warden or any NPCs the players have taken a liking to. They then set off the prison riot as the storm suddenly intensifies, forcing the players to either try fleeing Abashiri or pushing through to the riot to stop the ritual. On the other hand, if you're wanting to expand the scenario by an hour or two, you could add an extra day before the riot, letting the players live out a day as prisoners. This gives them more time to talk with other prisoners, as well as throw in some extra tension as cultists and prisoners or guards try to incite violence or separate investigators from one another. The players deciding to flee is also a chance to greatly expand the length of the scenario. One idea not included in the scenario text is to make the escape an extended chase. The storm itself chases the party, and instead of taking place in vaguely real time, each turn is instead a day or more, with the final escape being reaching Honshu. A possible collection of obstacles and barriers could be 1. finding the road to Asahikawa in central Hokkaido with a navigate or natural world roll. 2. Surviving the trek with a survival or a hard con roll. 3. Dealing with other refugees on the run with a hard interpersonal roll. And 4. Finding a way across the Tsugaru Strait to the safety of Aomori with an extreme credit rating, interpersonal, or stealth roll to get aboard a boat. If you do decide to run the scenario for your group as a thank you for listening this far, you can again find a discounted link in these show notes. Thank you very much for listening. As always, thank you to CryoChamber for use of their album Cthulhu. Links in these show notes. Until next time, have a good one.